How's it going, everyone, and welcome to another video. So today the plan is to figure out how to get boost to read on the SCT X4 for data logging. So in theory it should also read on the X4 screen readout. So I've been doing some Googling, trying to figure it out. I saw someone ask a question about this a while ago on the GT500 page. It got me thinking, can you get boost to readout on an SCT X4? Just been Googling, did some digging, and it appears the answer is yes. I know the X4 can read it for Power Stroke, Duramax, vehicles that are able to have a factory map sensor. So in theory, it could also do it for the EcoBoost Mustangs for the same reason. So why is that? Well, the map sensor is a sensor that reads pressure within the manifold air pressure. So that is what this is. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you the parts I got. And based on the Googling I was doing, kind of figure out what this looks like. The plan is to post up some wire diagrams in here as well, so you can see how to wire it in and the stuff we're going to use. So let's go ahead and get into it. This is my 2007 GT500. We got cams, VMP supercharger, pulley it up and down depending on what we're doing. And I have an analog boost gauge that runs off of here. So our boost reference comes off the bottom of the manifold, runs down to the bottom of the manifold, runs to our fuel rail pressure regulator sensor right here, and then gets teed off to go to various things. This one in particular, this one runs to my boost gauge. So if we were to tie in the map sensor into this line, which I'm gonna do in the cabin, we should be able to see boost pressure. Now we can test this with the air pressure regulator and our air compressor, get a low boost reading, and it should work. So let me get into this. So what you're gonna need to get this to work, and if we need more stuff, watch the whole video, we'll find out. But I got a cheap map sensor because I didn't really feel like getting the $100 GM one or one from a different one. So, but this is basically a knockoff 3-bar GM map sensor. Now this one in particular because it also had the conversion rates for voltage to, or KPA rather, to voltage, which is what you're gonna need to put into your SCT. You're in a Windows laptop that's gonna have your LiveLink Gen 2 program installed. It's free. Use it for any data logging if you have an SCT X4. So with that, you can build a custom configuration file. And lastly, so this is obviously the X4, you're gonna need a FireWire, which attaches into there. I have one in the car already installed. The wire itself is just, it has a plug on one end and it has cables on the outside to go to your whatever analog device. So right now it's hooked up to my wideband, but there's two options for inputs. So we're gonna hook the second one up to our map sensor. So then we have our 3 wires here. So the way this should work, black is gonna go to ground. This is gonna be a body ground. It doesn't matter where it is, just ground it. The red is going to be your 5-volt input, and your yellow is gonna be your output, which should go to your data logger. So the SCT has 3 color cables per link, technically 4, I guess 3, really 2 and then a 4. So it's gonna have a ground for itself, which is gonna also get grounded to the same thing. So it's also gonna go to body. It's gonna have a colored cable, which is gonna be the input, and the 5-volt white cable should be a 5-volt white out from the SCT device itself to use specifically as a reference. So we're gonna go ahead and pull that stuff up and start working and see what happens. So my plan is to hook this up to an air compressor, just have regulator turned all the way down so it's only like 2 or 3 PSI, and it should read. The other thing is the reason we went with a 3-bar map sensor, I need this thing to be able to read up to about 25 PSI. Do I run that much? No, but I want room to grow. So a bar, so when you say 3-bar, a bar is 14.7 PSI. It's natural atmospheric pressure. So 1 bar will always read 14.7. If you plug this in with no vacuum, that's what it's gonna read. So we wanna be able to read basically that onward, which puts us at like around 25 PSI. If you get 2-bar, a 2.5 bar, do the conversion and you'll figure out what you need based on that. So 3-bar should be plenty to cover all of our needs, and it's a readily available part with a nice accessible port. So that's a super long intro and overview of what we're doing, but let's go ahead and figure this thing out. All right, so we're in the car. We're gonna go ahead and look under here. And this is where my FireWire is, so I just have it tucked away. This is the plug-in that goes into your SCT X4. You can get custom lengths, doesn't really matter. Any generic FireWire will work. Anyway, this is the other side that is currently all zip tied up. I'm gonna unzip tie this in a minute, but here's our cable. So we have our white, red, and green. So these are the ones that are not being used. out of our firewire. And then these other two cables come off of our O2 sensor. Don't worry about those, that's for wideband. But these guys, you'll notice only one input is being used, and well, that's all we need. All right, so I just Googled basically a SCT X4 live wire wiring diagram, because I need to refresh myself what this is. I'll put a better picture of this on the screen. But basically what I have used right now is the black ground goes to body ground, analog 8 is orange, that goes to my O2, and analog 1 ground is blue, which I believe pairs up with analog 8. So those two are kind of a pair, and that also goes to body ground. So that leaves us with red, which is analog 7, green, which is going to go to ground, and white, which is going to go to our sensor. So I'm going to go ahead and start putting together some wiring. It shouldn't be too crazy, pardon the dirty floor mats, I'm vacuuming in here in a bit, but it shouldn't be too crazy, and we'll go ahead and knock this out. So right off the rip, before I even got into this, I double checked, I pulled up the Amazon listing, so I was curious, 3-bar map sensor, right there. I noticed, I was like, I don't remember a yellow wire on here. So right off the rip, this doesn't match the listing, not boding well for the sensor, but hopefully the sensor works, that'd be sick. That's what the pinout's supposed to look like, so it's supposed to be that. So I just double checked. GM 3-bar map sensor pinout with the sensor like so. A, B, and C, and it's supposed to be ground, sensor, output, 5-volt reference. So see A, B, and C on the connector right here very closely. So ground, sensor output, 5-volt. So just keep that in mind. All right, so I'm not tying anything down for real until I get testing done, but black and green are both ground. They are going to body point over there right now. That's exposed metal. White's white, brown red for our signal out. And I'm gonna go ahead and grab our air compressor and hook that up real quick. Get our SCT plugged in, start a data log, and see what happens. All right, so opening up Gen 2 LiveLink. I'm gonna do a screen capture of this if this actually works properly so you can see better. But got our tuner hooked up, key in, stuff wired up down there that you can't really see very well. So we're gonna go ahead, we want to data log a vehicle. My gauge set to 20 PSI right down here. So let's see what happens. I'm just looking for anything. It's probably gonna be absolute bogus input, but we can at least see it's doing something. Ooh, something changed. That blue line, just reading something. All right, so that's that. All right, we can stop that. 0. All right, so the real way to test this, we're gonna go ahead and put it onto this boost gauge. We'll wire it in, and we're gonna do the same air test. We'll plug off the one on the car side so it doesn't vacuum into the oblivion, and we'll make sure this reading matches that reading. But this is good. So I'm gonna pretty up this wiring. We're gonna get this thing tucked away, and it looks like this is gonna work. All right, so good stuff. The test worked. That's all I really care about right now. We'll worry about the rest of it later, but we're gonna go ahead and get this thing popped up and out of the way because I need to pull off that panel right there. That will let me get on in here, be able to do what I need to do back here. So there's a pin all the way in the back. Pull that out. Okay. And this whole thing should slide back like so. Pop this guy out. And the reason we're going in here, I don't know if you can tell super well, but this is where my easy access ground is. So we're gonna use that. I don't know what these super thin ones are for. Something I had, who knows. But the bigger thing I'm looking for is my boost line. It runs right through here. This plastic line is for the boost vacuum that runs my gauge up there. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go ahead and cut this bad boy. We're gonna tee it, and we're gonna hook that into the boost gauge, or into the map sensor right there. So that'll work for that. I got to figure out where I want to put this sensor, hopefully somewhere kind of serviceable. So I'm thinking about, honestly, there's some space up here in the dash, probably stick it up there, and then finalize my wire length and then get all this crap tucked back and away out of sight, out of mind. So I'm gonna go get the wiring in. Let's go ahead and get this whole thing installed now. I'm gonna figure out where to put that map sensor. Honestly, I might stick it up there somewhere, but yeah, tight working space. So let's keep going. All right, so it's the next day. We're gonna go ahead and get some sweet wire connectors. These are just a regular generic AutoZone Dorman brand. Pop these on there. I'm gonna show you where I routed my sensor and get it all calibrated, and it should be set to go. So if you're curious, these are the part number, just a generic Dorman vacuum connector. That's the straight one. I got two, so I wasn't sure which one I was gonna need, and I thought I had extra laying around. I don't, so might as well reload the old stock, but these two should do the trick. So I'm gonna open these up and we'll get it installed real quick. So you don't need to use this, I don't think, but I've always done something like this. I'm gonna put a little bit of PVC cement around the actual vacuum part of the line that goes in the small side, because I have had them sort of start slipping out on me, and I wanna make sure that we don't have that problem. I did it on my old ones. This stuff's pretty much rubber proof, flexible, so it should be good to go. Really doesn't matter, but for my peace of mind, we want it on this side so that our tube doesn't come out. So like I said, this is my vacuum hose that's coming out of the car from the engine bay. So we're gonna splice this. I'm just gonna cut it somewhere around here, and it'll feed up and into the sensor. So not too big of a deal. So I gotta knock this out. All right, there we have it, all nice and plumbed up. Out of the way, should be good to go right there. So I think we're all set. And let's go ahead and test out the system. All right, so let me tell you, that was a pain in the butt. So trying to figure out how to calibrate the sensor was actually pretty challenging. So over in equations, this is the equation I wound up with. So volt times 8.162, which is not the same as the GM 3-bar map sensor, that's 9.78, minus 13.74 is pretty much dead nuts on where I need it. So sensor, I think, is off by a little bit. It looks like it'd be off by about 1 psi, but this is kind of where like some stuff comes in. Remember, you're measuring at, atmospheric pressure at this. So we're a little bit higher than sea level, just a hair. So that could have a bit of an account into that. I think it's 300 or 400 feet above sea level. Nothing crazy, but depending on your DA and some other stuff, like it could have a potential to have an impact on this. So regardless, pretty damn close for where we're at now. I think it's matching up with my boost gauge. That was a little bit more challenging than I intended. Basically what I did is I got rid of this and I just had it at volts. So I had volts right here, and on my right here, this was the value outputting volts for that. And I hit play and just let it fluctuate. So 1.6 volts was when my gauge up here said 0. This is what I was using to calibrate. So it said 0 psi, 1.6 volts. And then I had my air regulator and I slowly upped it to 5 psi, 10 psi, 15 psi, pulled the voltage for each of those, and then put it into ChatGPT, and it spat out a formula. So that's how I got that, because I'm not smart enough in math to try and figure that out on my own. But it worked out pretty well, and it seems to have worked. So let's go ahead and start a data log, and we'll be good. I'm going to show you guys how to actually set up a config file in a minute. But for right now, it seems to be doing the trick. So I just pumped up my air compressor, so let me turn this thing back down. It's probably about to blow the lines off. Just have it somewhere around there. So it's only up a little bit. We're at about a little over 2 psi. We're showing around, yeah, 2.5. She's kind of showing around 3-ish. I'm noticing that gauge is a little bit slow to react in sometimes, but this thing is showing 3. So I'm going to adjust it a little bit, bring it back down. So that's 4 psi on my gauge, or sorry, 3 psi on my gauge, right around there. We're showing 3.2 on the map sensor, 3.1 right around there. So that's pretty accurate. Move it to 5, a little above 5, 5.8, almost 6. So back it back down a little bit to 5. Right about there, we're looking at 5 psi there, 5 psi on the gauge. I'm just kind of showing you guys that it does work. A little over 15 right there. There you have it, 15 on the boost gauge. And let's see, we usually run about 18 psi. Just make sure that's accurate. Yeah, 18.2, 18.1. Just a titch over the 18 line mark right there. So I'd say we are pretty good. Yeah, pretty accurate. So yeah, it looks like everything is scaling appropriately. I think we're good to go. And then 0, back down to 0.1, almost 0. It kind of fluctuates just a hair. You might be off by 1 decimal point. Not too bad. So pretty happy with that. I think it's scaling well, and it's finally good. So the formula for this particular sensor, and honestly, I think if you're doing this, you're probably going to have to calibrate it. We'll go ahead and stop this. Yeah, over in equations, so that's it. Looking at volt times 8.62 minus 13.74, and that's getting us where we need to be. So a little bit different from the GM one. I'm sure if you got a GM part number, specific map sensor, that formula would probably work. This one was, like I said, Amazon special, so you got to do a little bit of extra to get this to work properly. But I think we're good. All right, so let me go ahead and get this fired up. So I'm gonna pull you guys up on OBS real quick, and we're gonna go ahead and go over what I did. So this is the formula right here that I was talking about. You're gonna be under equations. So let's go ahead and go back to the beginning. So we're gonna close this out, key off. We're not gonna do that, save. That's fine. So you're going to use Gen 2 LiveLink. You're going to have your SCT hooked up via USB cable. Let that start real quick. Pull my keys out so it's not dinging on us. All right, so now that it's open, basically what you're going to do is I want to data log a vehicle. So we're going to go ahead and plug our SCT device in, plug it in following the prompts on the screen. You're going to want a battery charger on your car if you're having this on for long terms. So turn a key on. Check communications, should come back good to go. All right, sweet. You're gonna go to vehicle info, yep. And how this is gonna work is you're gonna go to, if you already have a pre-configured config file, you're gonna go ahead and open that and add this item. If you haven't, you're gonna go to select items. And there are certain sites, Venomous Tuning, for instance, has in their walkthrough the correct ones you wanna select on here as you scroll down and collect what you wanna collect. What I'm going to do is go ahead and open up my previously saved one. We're going to open, we want to do a configuration file. We want to hit yes so that we can select additional items. So we're going to do this one. This is the AEM AFR. Do this one, open that up. And then we're going to go ahead and also add input analog 7 firewire. So then hit configure data log. And boom, there we go. These are all the things that BJ likes to have tracked, which makes sense, easy day. So now we're gonna go ahead and start data log. And specifically, we're looking for this one. So you can deselect all of them, which I'm gonna do in a minute. So we're gonna go ahead and uncheck all items and just have our analog 7 tracking. This will start up in a minute right here. So now we're tracking boost. Right, so it's going to be super big until it gets some scale. So we're going to add our boost in there. 19 psi. Oop, now it's dropping way back down, just the way this arrows work. So about 16 psi on my gauge, and we're right at 15.7, 16 right around there. So yeah, pretty solid. That's lining up with my gauge just about perfectly. And then we'll back it off, back down to no boost. So there we have it, and the rest of our stuff's also doing the same thing. So if you want to gauge this on your SCT device, all we're going to go ahead and do, all right, so after we save it, we're then going to go ahead and hit export DLF DLX. So we're going to export that to our tuning device. Directly to device, we're going to put yes. Then we're going to name it Venomous. File name is going to be custom, well, we'll call it AFR plus boost. Go ahead and export to our device. Send to device successfully. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and close out of this. We don't need this anymore. We're going to do it on our device. I want to show you guys what you can do. All right, so on our SCT device, we're going to go to gauges and data log. We're going to go to configuration. I have a couple configs on here that I've been playing with, but we're going to want Venomous. That's one we just made. The other two were for some test stuff earlier. Continue. Just going to ask, what do we want? These are the default settings. You can choose your devices, obviously, on here, or choose which ones you want. Doesn't really matter. So we're going to change engine load. We're going to go down to unit, item. We want to see, where's analog? There, we want to see 7. And then approve. Ooh, I don't know if that's going to work. Interesting. I actually haven't looked at this. All right. Well, let's see what happens if we do it in volts. Yeah, okay, interesting. So that equation needs to be, I don't know how to update that. So I guess it's only good for, yeah, I guess it's only good for, sure, let's see what happens. Yeah, no, that's not accurate at all. Damn, okay, that sucks. I guess it's only good for the computer. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and put the car back together real quick, but yeah, that pretty much sums it up. I'm gonna go ahead and stick our stuff together, and then realistically all there's left to do is do a watt pull, make sure it's reading boost properly. So I don't know if to do that today or tomorrow or what, but yeah, I think we're all right. All right, so I set the car. That's all I did, to run a wire all the way to my inside of the car, but this is the line I'm talking about. That's what it looks like right there. And this guy just plugs into the bottom of the manifold. Down here, there's a spot for it. So plug that back in right up top here. Oh, come on. Like so. And that's back on. So there we have it. Back on. Easy day. So I got my 2.8 pulley on right now. Because it's winter. Not really beating on the car. I like having some power. Run 93 reliably. I having to worry about anything crazy. So leave that. I'm going to go race and I'll turn it up. But for right now, it is what it is. So 2.8 pulley, just a nice, easy day. It should be making around 14, 15 PSI. So I guess we'll find out in the data log. Well, I was going to do a watt log. Looks like the weather's not going to agree with me for the next couple of days. So I'd rather get this video out sooner than later. And I basically showed everything I wanted to show in the log anyway, as we were hitting the air pressure and having it go up and down. So I think we're solid. I'm going to go ahead and charge the car batteries. We had it on for a while now, but hope you guys found some value out of this. I'm not trying to make this some big new thing. It's not. It's just new to me. I didn't know I could do that. So I figured I'd share the knowledge and kind of give you guys somewhat of a walkthrough on how to do it. I realize it's a pretty long video, but Thanks for watching, guys. Let me know what your comments are down below. Have you ever thought about logging boost with your X4 or wished you could and just weren't sure how to do it? Well, now you know. There's other options out there. I know HP Tuners allows you to do it depending on the sensor. You can also do it with a couple other ways. The AEM makes a digital boost gauge that has an output that you can plug into your X4 that way as well. If you don't already have a boost gauge, that might be the better route. I don't know. But basically the main takeaways were have something to calibrate your sensor. I used my existing boost gauge, but anything that can read PSI on the same line that the sensor is, this way you can get voltage and all that stuff. ChatGPT is your friend. I use Copilot, it doesn't really matter, but just something to have all those values plugged in there if you don't want to go through the math to try and figure out voltage to PSI conversion. And yeah, it's not too bad. Basically, you just want to have a nice range of values. So I used 5, 10, and 15 PSI with a few in between, just to kind of get it to graph a line that's somewhat straight, kind of hits most of the points. And then from there, whatever that modifier, that value is times voltage, is kind of what it is. And then you can use that to plug into your logger and get the right voltage out. So kind of cool. I'm pretty happy with it. But once again, that's going to do it for this video. So thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next one.